Factory tuner cars, you know the drill. Cars modified in-house. The Germans, they've been doing this trick for the past 50 years, and now we're to the point where people take a car this size seriously as a performance machine. But now Rolls-Royce is in on this whole game, which brings us to some confusion. How do you tune a Rolls-Royce? Even more confusing, how do you tune an electric Rolls-Royce? So when I say electric car and Rolls-Royce, I'm willing to bet the first thing that pops into your mind is 6,000 pounds. The question is, how much farther are we going over that number today? Well, to be exact, 6,559 pounds, or depending on express your weights and measures, 2,975 kilograms. Then we press on to another question. How much more than the cheap seats version of the Spectre is this Black Badge? And that's a whopping 16 pounds with that. Oh. We gotta back off because this is not exactly the correct tool for the job. And remember when we drove, this is about a year and a half ago at this point, the bargain basement version of the Spectre. That I don't think is a good name for a car, it's $420,000. That was deviously fast. And when I say deviously fast, I mean there's no reference point for how quick that car is. Yes, Rolls-Royce will tell you it's 4.4 seconds to 60. They're saying this one is 0.4 of a second faster. However, those numbers mean nothing because you don't know how quick the car is because it's so quiet, it's so soft, it's so easy to go fast, so you don't have any reference points like you would in like that M8 we saw at the beginning of the episode. However, there is a change here. This car has an additional 82 horsepower and 129 pounds of torque. So we already had a quick car that we had no reference to the actual real world of how fast it is, and now we have one that's even faster. Okay, so that's all fine and good, but how does one use this extra power? Well, luckily, there is a way in which we can demonstrate this. There's no one behind us, so let's stop here on the sort of straight part of our canyon road here. There is a button marked Infinity. No, not the Nissan subsidiary. Rather, that is the logo for the Black Badge series. And this basically changes the torque profile of the car and releases all that extra power. So, with that. I don't really, oh, wow, okay. Not from a standstill, really don't notice the difference, but let's slow down here. That's a lot of pounds going around a corner. You notice it when it gets up to speed, about 30 miles an hour, that's when it really wakes up. If I'm trying to interpret the mission here, it's trying to provide more usable power, not make it a faster car, just make it more effortless, which is kind of the theme here, and we'll get more into that later. Okay, so if we continue into this theme of factory tuner modifications, what we just experienced, that's the good news. We press on to now not the bad news, but more the controversial news. See, this Black Badge, it's been around since 2016, and it came about as a reaction to what BMW Group saw starting in 2003, if you speak to them, where folks that were buying their cars, they weren't old, contrary to popular opinion. There's actually people who are very young that buy these things. And as such, they were buying, like the first BMW Phantom in 2003, and while they didn't slam them on bags, they lowered them, they did the blackout wheels, different wheels, they blacked out the grille, and then did all the trim around the daylight opening. So BMW, Rolls-Royce, they're looking at it and saying, why should we let somebody else make that money? Why don't we offer something that's more customized? Hence you have a black badge. It started with the Wraith and the Ghost back in 2016, but the Spectre, same kind of deal. You look at things like the grille, the Spirit of Ecstasy, even the wheels in this case. The wheels are indeed different in design, and they're on offer as black like this or polished. That, of course, can be all combined with the details that one can change or customize in the Rolls-Royce world. Like, for example, I could change the interior of this car from the Mandarin to my shirt, or even put my shirt on the umbrella. Okay, so you and I need to get back to that sort of tuner theme here as much as we can do in a Rolls-Royce. The first step would be to make it sound as much as we can like a tuner car, and to do that, we go up here to the driver settings. We go into drive and chassis, and you see here there's the Rolls-Royce sound there. So now it'll make some noises. I can't honestly tell you it's a significant difference between the basic Spectre and this Black Badge, but at least we have this sound thing. So now we got that. What's changed? Well, the tuning of the suspension. Now, for the avoidance of doubt, Rolls-Royces, they're not like AMGs or M cars. They don't have adjustable suspension. They have like a roll stabilization in them. And if you remember in our basic Spectre episode, I was really taken by how that car drove. It worked. The whole electric car gag was totally on point. It matched the profile of a Rolls-Royce. Here, all the tuning with the suspension makes it, really the best way to put it, it cleans everything up. This is an almost 6,600 pound car, but what happens is you don't really feel that extra. Yeah, there's a certain waft to it. You do feel like you're driving a luxury car. This is not a Rolls-Royce masquerading as an AMG, an M car, or a V car, anything like that. But it's so much more composed. And this is where we get to the whole reason for being of at least the setup of a Black Badge. Forget the way it looks. This, the most effortless car I have ever driven. To the point where I must admit that I personally love driving it. And this is totally against my car religion. And you guys know me, I am the most impractical person you have ever met. I have the mentality of a 3-year-old, yet this, magnificent to drive around town. Kind of fun, believe it or not. Doesn't embarrass itself up here. Granted, I'm not gonna push at ridiculous speeds. That's when you'll probably get to a point where you end up over there. But around town, or like cruising on the highway, a totally different experience. One cannot get anywhere else. And here's the catch with that statement. Even in other Rolls-Royces, so like a gasoline Phantom or a gasoline Ghost or the Dawn, which is my favorite modern day Rolls-Royce, they don't do what this thing does. It doesn't have the same, I don't want to say confidence, but the same feeling that you wear this, you don't drive this. That's what the Black Badge Spectre is all about. And so we arrive at the point of our story that most people are familiar with in the factory-tuned modified world, the money part. It's always more of it. In this case, a lot more. Here it is $70,000 more than the most basic Spectre, $467,750 for the entrance into the club. To that, we add about $101,000 in 17 factory options. So in the grand scheme of the Goodwood world, this car doesn't have a lot of options. But let's focus on some options that stand out. Now, that color, it is stunning. And you have seen it before. That is Salamanca blue. Here, it is $13,100. In the Morgan, that we had that exact color, they literally get the same color from the same supplier and call it Salamanca blue. As a matter of fact, call it Rolls-Royce Salamanca blue. That is a total of $2,900. In fairness, it's a lot less paint they need for the Morgan. Now, on the flip side of this whole Salamanca blue thing is a combination of navy blue and mandarin. I'm still on the fence whether I like the whole orange sort of tan interior, but it's a great contrast. I have to say, just as an aside, you look at the daylight opening of this car, specifically from the profile, and you take the front out, you can't help but see Dodge Charger. Anyway, put that aside, the mandarin interior, that's free. Then, of course, you need some Rolls-Royce options. And those Rolls-Royce options would be like the illuminated grille, $2,725. Then one has to have floor mats. Is that free in a $500,000 car? Of course not. You have to pay for lamb's wool floor mats an additional $1,800. Then, this being a Rolls-Royce, especially one of these black badges, they gotta do the whole things that kids want these days. Like a Starlight headliner, that is $19,750. Now, if you're peeling off almost 20 grand for the Starlight headliner, you need to get the Starlight doors, right? Another $13,300. While we're dressing up the interior, we need a better clock. That's absolute must in a Rolls-Royce, $4,725. Then, believe it or not, there are bits we don't have to pay extra for. Like, for example, all that dark trim, that's actually not blacked out, it's called dark chrome. So the Spirit of Ecstasy, finished in the dark chrome, that's free. The dark chrome on the wheels, that's free. The red calipers on the brakes, that's free. And then, a complete shocker of shockers, Apple CarPlay. Not a $4,000 option, like in the Lamborghini we just drove. It is free of charge. Then, following in the whole value from Goodwood, the destination and handling, also not $4 grand like in the Lamborghini world, it's a measly $2,700, which brings us to a total retail price of $566,100. Okay, so let's you and I put aside all the changes, switch off this fake sound here, and can I ask for something? A switch. It's a $566,000 car. You can afford to give me a dedicated switch here, one that reinforces that this is a luxury car and has some British pageantry to go along with it. That said, I'm gonna get it out there, say the quiet part out loud. This, it ain't my bag. You guys know I'm not a Rolls-Royce kind of a guy, even though I love driving this. However, where this kind of goes off the rails for me is the visual cues of the whole black badge thing. That's what I never bought into when they first came out, what was it, 9 years ago, something like that? The idea of blacking out grills and putting like black wheels on them and going with carbon fiber, that's not my thing with Rolls-Royce. Like, if you're buying a Rolls-Royce, at least in my mind, and call me an old man, I'm thinking you're buying into the whole wood, leather, wool. There's something about a Rolls-Royce interior you expect, and this is the last thing I expect. Granted, I have to say, this kind of orangey camel tan has grown on me, but the thing that lets it down is this. And I get what Rolls-Royce is doing here. They're letting the market dictate where they're going. So this is the tuners basically said, we're gonna put things like the Starlight headliner on it. Basically, 23-year-olds took down the headliners and put the lighting in there to make their cars look cool in like a Toyota Cressida. And here we now have it in a $566,000 car. And Rolls-Royce, I gotta take my hat off to them. They were smart enough to say, you know what? Why let them take the money? Why don't we collect that money? And that's where this whole kind of bag of tricks came from, whether I agree with it or not. Time for a little behind the scenes story. We drove this car to go shoot a $4.6 million Bugatti. That was to another level. And I don't mean like the details of the design, more the choices they made. You sit in that thing, and we wanted to call it the Tourbillon, is this bowing at the altar of timepiece art. And they do it to another level in that car. Go check out that episode. However, it made me think about this car. This car is not cheap. One can afford to do some sort of like Tourbillon style thing here. Maybe they do it their own way like they did over here. They've got a clock, but it's not, there's no pageantry to that clock. I'm sure there's other clocks you can get from Rolls-Royce, but the minute I got back into this, after shooting that Tourbillon, and I'm gonna say it again, otherworldly, the first thing I saw was this being dated in like 3 years. And Rolls-Royce, I don't think can afford that. And I'm willing to bet that they have the opportunity to make changes here, at least make it an option where people pay extra, and most likely would be like a 90% take rate to change this to all analog, but to like an artistic level. And if you look at the price elasticity of a car like that, there's absolutely all the flexibility in the world to make a statement here, and that would cascade down to other levels of like fancy or performance cars. But let's look to the $4.6 million like North Star now in the luxury car world and bring it to the measly $500,000 luxury car world. So this turned out to be more of a learning experience than our previous jaunts with $500,000 plus cars. First and foremost, there's that whole propulsion system. These, the US government, they call them for 291 miles of range on the basic Spectre, this one with more output, 266. But in spending some time driving it around LA as well as out to the canyons and back, clearly this is more like a Porsche Taycan, where they told us it was like 250 miles of range, but clearly every time I drove it, I got over 300 miles on a full charge. Same kind of deal here. And then second, the whole Black Badge experiment. I don't think it's really about being a tuner Rolls-Royce or a modified Rolls-Royce. I think it's, yeah, trying to get into another like younger customer base, but more importantly with this, it makes it so much more of a pleasant driving experience. As I said, the absolute easiest car I have ever driven, effortless, better way to put it, most effortless car I've ever driven in my life. And it's not because it's electric. Like many people that have driven these things have often said, Rolls-Royce is probably the best electric candidate out there. I'm not an EV guy, and even I have to admit the propulsion system works here, but really more the Black Badge flavor than the regular flavor. I am one man. This is the point of the episode. I turn around to you guys to opine in the comments below or via our social media. MotoMan TV, all in word. MotoMan TV, all in word. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, if you enjoyed this particular color, Salamanca Blue, I would highly suggest you watch our Morgan +4 episode with the exact same color, less like hair on fire color on the interior. You can see that episode here. Until I see you in the next episode. Bis später.